Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the World Rapid Chess Championship 2022. First of all, what is Rapid Chess? 15 minutes and 10-second bonus time. Basically what you play in your online games. There are two sections. We've got an open, we've got a women's section, and as always, I'm going to try to take you through as many of the games as possible. The tournament is obviously split into multiple days. Today we had the first 5 rounds of action, and then everybody went to sleep. So, obviously fun storylines in the event. We got Magnus, Hikaru, we got Hans all under one roof. I believe we're like at some point hoping that some of them give sound bites in interviews. In all likelihood, Hans has declined interviews in the past. There's probably a chance that he does it as well in this event. And I doubt anybody's gonna really talk about the elephant in the room, the subject. We're just gonna try to focus on the chess. Well, focus on the chess we shall, all right? We may not get a lot of drama, but we definitely are going to get a lot of chess. Magnus begins his campaign with a matchup against Armenia's Samvel Tersahakyan, and at the end, I have saved a nice little dessert for you, so make sure to stick around till the end, of just an absolutely brilliant game. All right, day one is what we expected. Great chess, great storylines beginning. The event begins. Magnus plays a French defense. So, seems like this is the opening that he's kind of been cooking up recently. I mean, he knows a lot of different openings, but the French does lead to some very imbalanced games, and we do see one already. This is called the win hour. Black applying some early pressure to White's center. White locks the door, takes, and now we have Knight c6. Now, I have played the move Knight c6 before, and the most aggressive way to play here with White is to play like this, which is exactly what Samvel does, targeting these pawns. Magnus now plays the move g6, and like again, the computer just absolutely hates this position for Black. I've played this over the board before, and I got slaughtered. And basically what Black does is Black just tries to play with pressure on the queen side, and just sort of says like, look, you can come get me, but I'm really not afraid. White plays the move a4. This disallows the queen from getting to that square, and now White can play this and maybe c4 and kick out the queen. Magnus now shuts the door completely. So he has completely shut down the queen side, and he's going to look to apply pressure there. But as I'm look at what Stockfish thinks about this position, right? I mean, it's really not thrilled. And I mean, look at this, Rook h7. I mean, just incredibly ugly play here, but kind of necessary, you know, because Black is trying to castle. That's what Black wants, so Black does. And Tersahakyan's just sort of making completely effortless improving moves. The problem with this position, though, with White is it's very easy to just sit there and just go, oh, I have a better position, right? Because Black is going to start doing stuff. Like, you see, he's now transferring his pieces out of the queen side, and all of a sudden, Samvel played a couple of moves here, and now Magnus strikes out with f5. Not strikes out, like strikes back. Lashes out, not strikes out. Strikes out is a bad thing. Knight takes f6 and drops his knight into the center of the board. Now, that was a free pawn, by the way, and there is a rook hanging, but the queen is worth more. Queen e3, rook over to h8, and now bishop f3. Now, bishop f3 is a very nice move because it's trying to transfer, not transfer, it's trying to take the knight because it's very strong, and then transfer in one of these pieces on the dark squares. Unfortunately, it blunders something extremely vicious, which doesn't even look obvious at first, but naturally Magnus finds it immediately, and that's the move e5. The move e5 doesn't even look like it makes any sense because I just take the pawn. It doesn't look like you've accomplished anything. Well, there actually is an idea. The point is that you're supposed to take the knight, give up a check, slide over, and apparently this position is just lost for White because White is going to lose the h4 pawn, and the king is super weak. Now, clearly Magnus is a human because he goes here instead. So he plays e5, he doesn't find the best follow-up, but he still has a lot of pressure on the White position, and White is just trying to play defense now, and here comes Magnus, right? Like, he's just sliding his king out of the center of the board, preparing for battle. White plays bishop g5, and that somehow is an extremely fatal mistake. It doesn't look like a fatal mistake, but it's -6 now, which is just sort of what it feels like to play Magnus. You don't even exactly know where it goes wrong. White should have taken the knight. That's what White should have done. But the bishop goes to g5, and the point is that you just apparently cannot stop this attack. Like, yes, you can play g3, but now there is the attack on the queen, and the queen is, it's like in a lot of trouble here. For instance, it looks like the queen can just survive. I take, and then if you take, I have check here, and I check you, and then I'm winning your rook, right? So that's like the idea. But instead of that, Magnus goes here. So neither guy is playing perfectly, but Magnus is kind of the one calling the shots, right? Bishop e4, looking for checkmate, and lo and behold, what ends up happening is that out of this totally chaotic position, we emerge into, well, an endgame, right? Like, at the end of the day, there's always a third phase when you play Magnus. It's an endgame, and it's rook and knight, and I mean, it really should not be winning here for black. But white just doesn't defend properly, and Magnus gets his own passed pawn. Pawn gets down to c2, and just like that, it's just over. It's over because this pawn's not going anywhere, and this pawn is rook e1, c1, and it's just like chaos to play Magnus. It's just never over. Ever. So he wins. He wins in the first round. It's topsy-turvy. Gets the job done. Fun game. I mean, for a spectator. I don't know how fun it was for him to play. And we'll get back to Magnus. Now, another game I have for you. Vladimir Fedoseev from Russia playing against Nodirbek Yakuboyev. Nodirbek is an Olympic champion. He's from Uzbekistan. This one was a Rogozin, just the Queen's Gambit. Don't even worry about it. And a line that leads to pretty dynamic pawn structure. So got a little of this going on. Black plays e5, trying to strike at the center here. We have castles. Rook d8 attacking the center. And basically everything has to do with the center now. I mean, like, look at this. Everything. So what's going to happen? Fedoseev takes on e5. We have takes, 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 and now c4. Now we have a debate. Who's better, bishop or knight? Right? Who's gonna be the better piece in the long run? Well, here black plays a move I don't quite understand. Black plays knight d7, undeveloping the knight and blocking the rook. So Fedoseev just immediately plays rook d5. And I think this bishop is suddenly gonna have an impression, right? Like I think black highly regrets playing the move knight d7. But okay, the knight goes to b6. You're trying to kick out the rook. Fedoseev takes a free pawn. Now black trades, and I guess the idea was to win this pawn back, and it kind of makes sense. But Fedoseev goes here to target the pawn on b7. Black plays queen c6, and now Fedoseev threatens mate. Now we do see who is better between the bishop and the knight. Queen g6, now queen d4. So again, just making this pawn untouchable. If you take, I have various back rank ideas. If you play rook c4, I just mate you in one move. So black goes here, and suddenly is like, wait a minute. Right? Now, h5. The point of h5 is that if rook takes c4, suddenly it's actually white who gets mated. And they're not going to hang this. You might hang this, but you're not playing at the World Rapid and Blitz. h3, now both guys don't have any more back rank problems. But Fedoseev grabs a7. Can't take the bishop because the rook is pinned. Bishop goes to the center. I mean, this is a god of a bishop. That bishop is just standing around looking pretty. a4, very nice idea to remove the defense of the knight. And Fedoseev just marches forward. Queen e7 hits the rook in the corner. Queen g5, threatening mate. And I gotta tell you, you can't stop it. You play f6, I just take. I also have queen to d5 winning the rook. And g6 just leads to the same exact demise. And Fedoseev picks up a win against the Olympic champion Yakuboyev. And clearly that pawn, that bishop is just, high quality. Fedoseev, after day one, has 4.5 out of 5. So he is tied for first. He has been a buzzsaw. He has been amazing. We're going to keep an eye on his event. Unfortunately, he got more rounds. Can't just stop everything here. Hikaru, let's check in on him, see how he's doing. He was playing the good doctor, Bassem Amin from Egypt. I think he is the only man in the world who is a grandmaster and a doctor. So, guy's a beast. And I know he has a lot of fans. Let me know in the comments. if you're a fan of his from Egypt or elsewhere. We got a King's Indian defense. This one was super locked. And Bassam went at Hikaru early with this move f5 and f4. And now Hikaru played a very interesting idea here, which is bishop takes c5. Now, if you just look at this position, it doesn't make any sense. Because what we teach people is if you're going to trade a bishop, you should replace that color complex, right? So white has traded a dark squared bishop, and yet all of white's pawns are on light squares. Which means white's light squared bishop is bad. But it's not so simple. This is an elevated level of that. So because black has all the pawns on dark squares, black's dark squared bishop actually doesn't get to participate in the game as much. It's a very close game. And Hikaru plays g4. Bassam sacrifices the f-pawn and plants the knight here. And now it's going to kind of be a masterclass of how can Hikaru break out of this close position. Now watch as an entire game goes by with the center not moving. It's like an illusion. You know, one of those optical illusions that you stare at for a while and then you start seeing it like, look at this. I mean, the whole game is taking place, but the center is not involved. Bassam takes control of the H-file, completely locks the position, and he's looking to get this and this, but that's a weakness. It's going to be very tough. That's a weakness. And you know what else is a big weakness in the black position? That. And Hikaru just masterfully waits. He waits, prepares a reroute, builds up a rock-solid pawn formation. Look at this setup. Gets the knight there, slides the queen where the king is supposed to be, but the king stepped away, giving room for the queen. And then I love this idea, rook gg1. And the idea? Fighting back on the h-file. And he defends his pawn, rook h1, and it's just going to be basically, will Hikaru win back control of the h-file, or will Hikaru get to f5, or will Hikaru get this? The problem is right now, Hikaru's calling all the shots, all right? And he plays a couple more moves. The knight has now gotten in, and Bassam realizes he's in severe trouble. He just simply cannot deal with everything. He tries to sacrifice his rook. The problem is that all that did was still close the h-file. Hikaru still wins this pawn. It's from bad to worse, and slowly but surely, white's pieces come back, and at some point, yeah, he just breaks through on the h-file. It doesn't really matter. He sacrifices the rook back, and now the queen is left alone with the black king, and let me tell you, she is not going to be gentle. e5 opening up the door while Hikaru's king is completely safe. In comes the bishop, in comes the queen, and it's made in a couple of moves. Bassam resigns because this is checkmate. And what a game. I mean, like, can we just address the fact that the center just literally stayed there until the very end, right? Until it was, like, time to completely open up the game. What a game from Hikaru. Just masterful job here. Very nice counterintuitive move, taking this knight, and then dealing with the capture of the pawn and just sort of saying, all right, like, you want to give me a pawn? No problem. Hikaru had a solid first day. He's a point behind the leaders, but he's got a lot of time to catch up. He has 3.5 out of 5, undefeated. 2 wins, 3 draws, and a solid one here. But nothing, you know, nothing completely otherworldly just yet. Jordan Van Forest against Vladislav Artemyev. This one was a very logged game, so I'm gonna click you through it. It was in Italian. It was one of these like candidates preparation games. Jordan took the center. Artemyev fought back. Artemyev fought back, played move b6. And then here, Jordan just stepped on the gas. I mean, I don't know what he ate for breakfast or lunch or whatever in Almaty. They're in Almaty, right? By the way, the capital of Kazakhstan is so fascinating. I don't know if you know this, that you could use this to win your trivia night. I feel like they change the name of their capital like once a year. Like, it was Almaty, and then it was Nur Sultan, which, by the way, is a boss name, Nur Sultan. Like, I'm going to Nur Sultan. But then now it's Almaty again. I don't know what... Can somebody who's Kazakh tell me what's going on? How come they keep changing the capital? Anyway, so at this point, Jordan basically started attacking Fedoseyev's queenside mercilessly. And I mean, he just, like, as you can see, it's going to go from bad to worse here. F3 controls all the squares. B3, solid move. And just knight takes A5. And I mean, he's just getting in. Takes A7. Comes back. And the bullying continues. I mean, the knight now replaces the bishop. That doesn't work, right? So now I kick your knight out. The bishop comes in, the knight comes in. And basically, Jordan just forgets about this entire side of the board, and he's just bullying the queen side. Bishop c6, bishop. I mean, look at this. What are we doing? This is death by smush. He's smushing him to death. He takes all his pawns. And the game transfers into an endgame where one guy's got 2 rooks and the other guy has knight and bishop. It's just not going to work. It's not going to work, and he's going to win this game by either pushing these pawns or getting to the king. That's the way you win positions where you have big advantages. Queen d2, Kovitkov, a5, queen c2 check, a6. The pawn is just marching down the queen. Jordan has to protect his king, but unfortunately, it's just game over. Takes e5, prevents this. And another man who, after 1 day of the World Rapid, is in amazing shape is Jordan van Forest, who takes down not just Vladislav Artemiev, but he also took down 3 other players. He also has 4.5 points. So he's also tied for first, which is amazing. I mean, it's an amazing job by him. And he's off to a rock-solid start. But, as always, it's day 1. I mean, there's 8 more days. What am I saying? I feel like COVID's got me saying some stupid stuff. Like, I am just constantly correcting myself. I mean, COVID is such a weird illness. Like, this is my 5th or 6th day, and I'm not even as sick as I am just, like, out of it constantly. Like, tired, and my brain just isn't firing as it normally would. It's weird. It's weird. But a lot of people have talked about that. Anyway, there's also a women's side going on, and one of the most entertaining players there is Valentina Gunina, who is just, her games are so fun. Valentina doesn't fight like Israel Adesanya in the sense that she, like, you know, she doesn't just come not to lose. Valentina comes to win, and she will do it at whatever cost. It doesn't matter if she gets punched, dropped, anything. She plays a different school of chess altogether. Like, even though this is kind of like a more, you know, solid and you might call, you know, boring opening, Queen's Gambit decline. No, Valentina will always find a way to make it exciting. For better or for worse. Like, I don't know how her own nervous system does it. But she gets nice positions early from openings. I'm turning my radiator down, otherwise it's going to hiss like something demonic. And she plays this line where she sacrifices a pawn, okay? And then she's going to build up this giant armada on the queen side. And, like, computer finds a way here to poke a hole. Computer's like, it's -2 point, whatever. But Valentina just gets all her pieces forward and then just plays in such style. She plays knight takes d5, giving up a full queen, just a full queen. Black takes the full queen, which is apparently the wrong move. Now Valentina plays knight takes e7 check and gets the bishop. I mean, bishop and the rook. And it's just down a queen. She has no queen. But what she does have is initiative. Now she gets her other knight into the game. Look at this. Knight d7 check. Sacrificing the knight. If you take, I go here and I'm going to get this. And you can't take that at the end because I have rook c8 forking you. So just all her pieces are hanging at the same time. But she grabs the pawn on the way out. And suddenly Black's rook is trapped. And this is a problem because that has to guard that. And that's a problem if the knight moves. So rook c8, knight c8, and just a complete reversal by Gunina, who then proceeds not just to play an endgame, right? 2 rooks versus a queen. No. It's never over when you play her. Rook b6, knight e7 check, and she just goes for the king. The king is wide open here. King's got nobody, but she's going for mate. Rook b8, the king has to break out. She's like, nah, break out where? It's mate. It's over. Black has absolutely no way to get to white first. It's going to come down to a game of 1 move. You could do, oh, that's not good. But you could do this and it's going to be a perpetual. But it doesn't even matter. FG, look at this. Rook f8. The mating net has been weaved. From down a queen to hunting the king mercilessly. Check. check, check, and it's mate on the next move. Queen h7. I'm gonna take with either piece. A move away from mate was Gunyina. I mean, her games are just so fun. Because you just never know. You just gotta watch her games with no eval bar because you're gonna have a heart attack. Like, Stockfish versus Gunyina would not be a fun matchup, but Stockfish versus anybody wouldn't be a fun matchup. Valentina plays some super exciting chess. Yeah, if you're a supporter of hers, it's fun. But yeah, I mean, it can be very stressful to watch with the eval bar there. And I showed her game because she's 4 for 4. So she's perfect. She has, she's in first place in the women's section. It's close, as I said. It is close. And there's many rounds to go. The women's section is 11 rounds instead of 13. Which, I guess, like in tennis, they have 3 rounds instead of 5 rounds. Although, you know, they could play even rounds, I feel like. I don't know why it's... I don't know why that's a thing. Anyway, I have two more games for you. Arjun Erigaisi versus Richard Rapport. And yes, you are seeing that correctly. Rapport no longer represents Hungary. He now is a representative of the Romanian Chess Federation. Because they probably paid him more than he was getting in Hungary. So, I mean, I don't know. That's probably why. That was a very, very big federation move. Now we have a Nimso Indian, and we have a very sharp line here with the center exploding. Erigaisi takes a pawn. Rapport takes a pawn. Erigaisi takes a pawn. And basically in this line, black is like, all right, look, your king is weak and your pawns are stupid, so I'm not worse. And you could see the engine actually agrees. We have a6, right? Trying to speed up the development. So if you take the pawn with white, black will take and activate more pieces. So Erigaisi's like, I'm not going to take. And then here, I believe queen b6 is like a very common move to prevent castling because c4 check. But for some reason, Rapport plays c4 first. And Erigaisi's like, okay, that's a free pawn. And now Rapport's like, well, now you can't castle. And Erigaisi's like, okay, well, I'm going to attack your bishop. And Rapport's like, you can't take it. Erigaisi's like, okay. And then Rapport's like, knight takes d5. And you can't take because you're pinned. And you can't take because you're pinned. And Erigaisi's like, okay, yeah, this is kind of scary. Knight c7 hits the bishop. And here Erigaisi just plays long castle. He's like, the only way I'm going to survive this prep bomb is by castling. So he does find a way to castle into a very dangerous side of the board. Now we have bishop back to c5. But at the end of the day, this prep has come from a position where Erigaisi has an extra pawn. Okay? And to beat a guy like Rapport, you have to pour fire. You have to pour water on his fire. That's it. Like, you got to extinguish the flame. He is super good with initiative, right? d5, rook e1, rook a5. I mean, like, look, Rapport is like the master of creating this absolute tactical nonsense. But Rapport kind of overcomplicated things here. First of all, if he wanted to be nuts, he could have sacrificed the bishop for this. That's like very stockfishy, but apparently pretty good. And the alternative was just to take the bishop, damn it. Like, just take the bishop. Like, the knight has been staring at the bishop for so long. Instead of that, he does it like this, and now Erigaisi again is going to get a pawn. Like, Rapport just gave him so many pawns. Literally. I mean, like, go back to the beginning of this game. That pawn died. All right, that pawn got traded. That pawn was free. That pawn was taken. And now the d pawn was taken as well. So we have knight d5. Knight d5. The bishop can take the queen. The knight can take the queen. Take, take. Rook a6 back. And now Erigaisi just cool, calm, and collected starts trading pieces. He's up material, so he trades pieces and gets to an endgame where black has nothing. Has nothing at all. Bishop versus knight is almost always better in an endgame. And a pass pawn, like away from everybody, it's 3-3 and a b pawn. That's a nightmare to defend. And now Erigaisi is like, well, I'm going to get us into a rook endgame, because to win an endgame, you really should trade one pair of rooks. Rook and bishop versus rook and knight is always going to be good. And I have the pass pawn. And Erigaisi just attacks the weaknesses, makes them move forward a little bit. See? Baiting all the pawns forward. And hello. How you guarding that? Oh, that's ugly. Oh, that's real ugly. King c2. Bishop d5, king up, just marches forward. Gets us into a rook endgame. King d6, king d4, pawn has fallen. Report is trying to defend. He's actually doing a very nice job. But the problem is it's too many pawns. It's too many pawns. And king g4, rook g6, last chance. You can take, but then I'm going to take this pawn. So Report just plays rook b2, and, well, I think he just resigned, but the point is that h3 just wins. And Arjun Erigaisi has 4.5 out of 5. And Erigaisi actually drew Magnus. He was drawing Magnus from a side of strength. He was putting a lot of pressure on Magnus. But speaking of Magnus, he definitely played the brilliancy of the day. I wanted to save this game for last because this game is, it's nice to start with Magnus and end with Magnus. And also, this is a game against literally the champion of the world in Rapid. This is Nodirbek Abdusattorov won this event last year, and I believe he beat Magnus to do it. So Magnus plays b3. All right. It's got little Nimso Larsen action. c4. Okay, not this knight a3 main line thing. And d3, and he's just basically going for a slow crawl kind of game. He's just making people play chess against him as opposed to any other game. Bishop e2. Nodirbek plays d5, attacking the center. And we kind of have a reverse Sicilian. It's kind of interesting now. Knight d2, f6, queen c2. Very slow. Look at this, very slow game. And kind of like a hedgehog is this. Very spiky. Just slowly bringing his rooks. Bishop g6. And now brilliancy begins. You know, sometimes in my how to lose at chess videos, I'm like, oh, suggest a move here. Like, you will never guess what white played. You will legitimately never guess what Magnus played in this position. Ever. It just, like, visually, it looks unbelievably idiotic what he played. He played the move g4. I mean, g4 is nuts. It doesn't attack anything. It just literally pushes your most vulnerable pawn in front of your king. But here's the thing. If queen d7, that's not actually under any pressure. Because knight h4, and you're actually fighting on the light squares, right? The bishop defends the pawn. No. I mean, yes, kind of, but no. Magnus plays king h1. Oh my god. Oh my god, that's such a deflating move, because now if you take, I have knight e5. This is not a check, queen, and I'm just jumping in. I'm attacking everything. Oh my goodness, king h1. Magnus breaks all principles here, pushes a pawn in front of his king, and gives it away. But it's because he realizes that there's no actual attack on his king. And then he seizes control of the light squares, brings his other rook to the center of the board, plants the rook behind the pawn, and here comes the rook. It was all planned all along to target the light squares. And look at this. And look at this. Oh my goodness. Nodirbek starts fighting back on the queen side. He's like, I'm not going to stand for this mockery. All right, knight a5, hello. Magnus is like, it's too late. I got both rooks there. You can attack me all you want. Now g5. The pawn that was supposed to be the weakness turns out to be the knocker on the door. f5 attacks the knight, counterattack. Knight slides back, hitting the bishop. Now Magnus plays e4. Why is he playing e4? Because to successfully attack a person in chess, you gotta lock the center. He wants a closed center, or he wants to rip it open for his queen later in the game. All right, knight takes a4. Magnus is like, so what? Now queen c3. Hello, hello. Knight comes back, but now the bishop is locked out. And by the way, did anybody forget about the g-pawn? It's knocking on the door. Hello? The black king is not feeling good right now. Black plays knight d4, dropping the knight into the center. And Magnus plays knight to g5, sacrificing the bishop and allowing a triple fork onto himself. What is he doing? Knight f7 check. Queen takes f7. Pawn takes f7. You can take my queen. I promote and make a new one. But what? There was also something missed here. He could have played queen c4, which apparently was slightly better. Again, Stockfish just ruining everything. I'm just going to ignore that. And instead, as always, Magnus has a exit door, right? Like he exits stage left, and the attack is over. But welcome to the end game. All right, it's like waking up on the Hunger Games platform, except it's just you and Magnus. All right, and he already has all of the stuff from the cornucopia. I saw Hunger Games yesterday. I've been watching a lot of movies, you know, and shows because I got COVID, so I'm just intertwining all of that. I mean, basically, it's like it's never over. Like, you thought you defended 30 moves against Magnus? No, it's time to defend another 30, and a lot of people can't. A lot of people just can't do it. Bishop g6, pawn takes f5, and the bulldozer arrives. And it's not what you would think. You would think bishop takes g7, right? Nope. Rook takes g7. And Nodirbek Abdusatorov resigned in this position because it's not that he's in any danger right now. It's that he has no moves. If he takes on g7, this position is so absurd. I could take with check and win the rook, right? But the position is so disgusting. I could go here, and black has no defense to any of my threats. I'm threatening mate. Any rook move back here is mate. But if you stop mate, I'm also threatening to win the rook. If you move the rook to d5 attacking my bishop, I'm just gonna go here and you lose the rook. You cannot stop anything. Rook takes g7, and this is how Magnus took down the reigning defending World Rapid Champion in style. All right? And Magnus has 4.5. We have Eric Geisy 4.5, Jordan Van Forest 4.5, Fedassev 4.5, but we also got 8 more rounds of action. Now, if you watch this long, you might have realized I didn't cover Hans. Hans had he had a win today, but he had four draws. I think he'll either make I don't know, like a story tomorrow, I think a bit more. I'm not gonna force him into the recap, just, you know, just for show, but we'll be seeing him tomorrow. I hope. He's got to win a couple of games to challenge the people in the first group of the leaderboard. Anyway, World Rapid Day 1 is over, and it was a fun one. I'll see you tomorrow. Get out of here.